resources from today's speaker, including a PDF version of this slide deck, in the resource section below. This session will be available for viewing on demand within about 30 minutes. You'll find it back in the Engagement Hub when it's ready to be replayed. Now, allow me to introduce our expert speaker. Holly Miller-Anderson is a seasoned SEO strategist. During her career, she has advised B2B and B2C brands at both an agency and a startup enterprise SaaS platform, and most recently served as in-house SEO product manager for the dual brand Macy's.com and Bloomingdale's.com. Today, Holly will discuss the right tools to use to diagnose and fix a drop in rankings. Take it away, Holly.
Thank you, and hello to everyone that's watching at home. My name is Holly Miller-Anderson. I'm an SEO strategist. I've certainly helped a range of B2B and B2C brands developing their technical and content strategies. And in my most recent role, I was an SEO product manager at Macy's Tech. So before we get started, let's just get clear on a couple definitions. Rankings are where your organic listings are on the Google SERP on desktop and mobile. Traffic is where you get your website. Common types are organic, direct, and referral. Conversions are actions users take on your site. They sign up for a purchase, sign up for a newsletter, download a white paper, those types of things. And rankings by themselves do not translate into revenue, only conversions do that. So it's really important to be clear when you're talking with your leadership and cross-functional teams about where they're seeing the decline and what they're seeing declining, rankings, traffic, or conversions. So I don't know about a lot of you, but we've been sheltered in place here. We've been doing a lot of cooking at home and watching cooking videos. So I thought it would be kind of fun to give you an overview of what we'll cover in the next 30 minutes in the form of a recipe card. So here's my best Gordon Ramsay impersonation. The dish is diagnosing and fixing ranking drops. Here's what you'll need: an enterprise SEO software that has crawling capabilities, free tools like Google Analytics and Search Console. You're going to want to leverage your internal IT and product level teams. And I'll also give you what I call kind of market insight tools that are going to help you understand what's going on in the broader market to give you context about your consumer. So the reason I like to connect the dots between SEO software and Google tools is because the enterprise tools will give you that big picture of what's happening to your competitors, and the Google tools are the best source of data between webmasters and Google. Now, the prep time, will really depend on how big your domain is. Large enterprise domains can have hundreds of thousands of pages, and so diagnosing ranking drops can take a few days up to a week. It can even take about a month before you really have a handle on why the rankings have dropped. Medium websites, are going to be a bit faster to diagnose because there's less pages to check through and smaller teams. So here's a quick snapshot of the tools that we'll be using in the presentation today. I want to draw your attention to the market insight tools. I'll introduce you to 5 that I really like: Google Trends, SparkToro, Glimpse, eMarketer, and Pinterest Trends. All right. It's never fun to scramble to figure out why things aren't going right, going up and to the right with our nice graphs, but rankings fluctuate all the time. And for many online businesses, 2020 though has just been a whole new ball game. We're working remote and Googling baking videos. We're searching for contactless grocery delivery, and don't get me started on Zoom calls. So it's fair to say that this year has just gotten off to a completely different start. There's lots of domains that have lost rankings, as early as March because of how this global pandemic has changed the way that consumers shop online and what really matters to them. And here's the thing. Everybody had a plan for how 2020 was going to go, and marketers everywhere just got punched in the mouth. A lot of things about daily life have changed. So my goal today is really to help you with the tools and resources and the thought process to understand your data and help you understand how to adapt and take action. All right, 3 basic reasons or hypotheses as to why rankings drop. It's either something that changed on your site, Google changed something, or external factors are affecting your rankings. And so what do I mean by each of these? The first possibility is when something changes on your site. This can take the form of a folder getting moved, code was updated or pushed live that broke something. Your dev teams maybe unknowingly created redirects. Googlebot is being blocked from crawling and indexing important pages or parts of your site because there was a change to the robots.txt file. Maybe something happened to the sitemap. The good news is if you are losing rankings because of something that one or more of your internal teams did, it's largely fixable. The tools that will help you validate or diagnose if something you did are affecting your rankings are really Search Console. I'll touch on a new feature called Core Web Vitals that recently came out. You'll look through Google Analytics and your enterprise software, and of course, talk to your dev and content teams about what updates got pushed out recently. And since rankings fluctuate constantly, it's really important to realize that you want to be able to identify if the drop you're seeing is seasonal or due to changes that were deployed in the code or on-page content. Knowing what went live in a site release can help you determine if you need to take action to fix it from a technical or content perspective. Let's jump into the second possibility. Google changed something. This is typically known as an algorithm update. The scariest part. Newsflash, Google changes things a lot. It's an uncomfortable truth for a lot of marketers. Google rankings are really real time. They change minute to minute. In 2018 alone, Google reported over 3,000 improvements that they made to search. Google is constantly refining things to better understand domain expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And sometimes the ratio of ads in the SERP actually tilts heavily towards paid search, and organic rankings can lose their rankings. Sources to check for the places to validate here for algorithm updates are Google Search Liaison. It's a Twitter account. The Moz algorithm update page history is a great place to verify that there was an algorithm update and getting insights about which industries were impacted. Broadly speaking, if you notice a sharp decline in your rankings and traffic, it's a good indicator that you need to dig in and find out where Google feels your site is falling short of expectations to users. If you see other competitors in your vertical who have lost rankings, it means there was a pattern that probably needed to be corrected, and algorithms can weed those things out so that users get the best results possible. And the good news is, even if you are losing rankings because of an algorithm update, if you make changes and fix those issues, it is possible to regain rankings. Possibility number 3, external factors in the market. So this can be a number of things. Competitors, may have overtaken you in rankings because they launched content that covered a similar topic, but they just did a better job of it, and therefore they're outperforming your site rankings. Could be, that there's a global pandemic like the one we're in now that changed consumer search behavior, right? That's crazy. As you can imagine, these are largely things that are just out of our control. So I'm going to try to focus on giving you actionable things to do and fix on diagnosing rankings dropping from an internal site, changes you've made to your internal site, or by way of an algorithm change. The tools I mentioned earlier that help validate external factors are affecting rankings are listed here. Plus, I'm also going to give you a list of kind of industry pros that I usually spot check whenever there's an algorithm update that is confirmed. All right, let's get started diagnosing. Remember our recipe card? We're going to get started first with our enterprise software. All right, enterprise platforms will basically tell you about the overall health of your domain, whether you've gained or lost rankings on high search value terms, which URLs lost or gained rankings, and the technical errors that are holding your site back. In most cases, these software platforms also have site crawling capabilities, so you can get a snapshot of the technical errors on your site as well. They're really powerful tools for validating if an algorithm was responsible, because you'll be able to see if rankings for your direct competitors were also affected. And the 3 main tools for large domains are Searchmetrics, BrightEdge, and Conductor. So the three pieces of data that you want to reference in enterprise platforms are your domain's SEO visibility, the winner-loser keywords, in this case focusing on which keywords lost rankings, and which URL groups lost rankings. There's a ton of data inside of enterprise level platforms, so just know that going in. I've boiled the ocean for you and provided 5 questions to ask when you're looking at the data. Since enterprise platforms mostly reflect rankings for keywords and URLs, we won't be able to see if traffic is being affected. But I'll go through each of these individually. And these 5 questions that you want to ask yourself are: which high search volume terms lost rankings? Did our URL rankings drop while direct competitors increased? Did any indirect competitors overtake us in rankings? Did our domain, along with direct competitors, lose rankings? Which specific areas of our domain lost rankings? So if you lost rankings on your high search volume terms, especially generic terms that command a lot of eyeballs, it can indicate one or both of 2 things. It's an indicator that an algorithm update has rolled through your site. You have even more validation if your competitors are also losing rankings on those same keywords. Or it's because of something you or your teams did to change the rankings. The content was updated, and Google doesn't now think that it's very relevant, those types of things. So it's really helpful if you keep notes on what you updated and when, so that you can identify if it was something that your teams published as opposed to an algorithm update. Did our URL rankings drop while direct competitors increased? This one's tricky because some pages have been penalized recently by algorithm quality factors, right? Especially when it comes to industries that publish advice on the financial industry or the medical industry. The key here is to look for the isolated incident of your URL rankings dropping while other competitors remain steady. So that speaks more to something that was done on your site that can be rectified to regain those rankings. Did any indirect competitors overtake us in rankings? This is where enterprise tools really come in handy. You can easily see the type in the domains. You can type in your domains of your indirect competitors to get a sense of where they stand in terms of their online visibility. If your rankings drop and you haven't made any site changes or content updates, and you can verify that other indirect competitors are outranking you, it's not the result of an algorithm update. It likely has more to do with the fact that competitors invested in their own content or improved their site architecture, and that's resulted in an increase in their rankings. Did our domain and direct competitors lose rankings? This is the million-dollar question. If yes, it likely means an algorithm is causing your rankings to be affected because it's also happening on similar sites in your vertical. At this point, you want to start researching what other SEO industry professionals are seeing in their data to better understand what the algorithm was targeting and how you can take steps to recover your rankings. Which specific areas of our domain lost rankings? So getting the answer to this question will help you backtrack to understand if rankings are suffering due to on-page content that was updated, or if it has to do with technical limitations on your page. I suggest working with your internal teams to understand what the pre and post rankings were to any changes that received updates. You might even have to roll back those changes. Alternatively, it's also possible that rankings were being affected by an algorithm update that's already in play. For instance, when the Penguin update was released, it targeted pages where there were hundreds of links on the page. So if your site had those types of pages, it was very possible that you lost rankings because that was considered a low quality page due to the unnatural amount of links as opposed to content that were on those pages. All right, switching gears over to traffic tools. Traffic is an indicator of rankings. If you're not driving traffic, you're probably not ranking. So using Google Analytics and Google Search Console, we'll be able to see what traffic sources have decreased and when, which pages are receiving less traffic and when, and has the crawl rate decreased, and when did that happen? Inside Google Analytics, there are two questions you want to ask when you're evaluating the data against a ranking drop. Which pages are receiving less traffic and which traffic sources have declined between organic, direct, and referral sources. This is a quick reference slide on the ABCs of Google Analytics. They're referring to the three areas to check in on in this platform, and these are acquisition, behavior, and conversion. So what traffic sources decreased and when? You want to evaluate the three main types of traffic, but focus on organic. You're looking to see what your organic traffic didn't drop after you made changes to the site. If you haven't published any changes and organic traffic has decreased, it can indicate an algorithm update has impacted your site, and therefore rankings are most likely being impacted. Which pages are receiving less traffic and when did that start? So if organic pages, page views have decreased, this can largely point to an algorithm update. But if you also notice that user metrics have declined, like your return visits, average time on page, that's an indication that you may want to consider digging in to see if those on-page user experience metrics can be improved. As a quick transition between Google Analytics and Search Console, I want to briefly touch on the topic of the datasets between the two. The reason Google Analytics data doesn't match Search Console or other platforms really is because it tracks which pages on the site were viewed and the source that got the user there to that page. It works with JavaScript and cookies, so it's largely just a rough estimate of the pages that were visited. And because real people use a combination of desktop and mobile and tablet devices to visit your website, it's difficult to track last touch attribution, but that is okay. You don't need to worry about data accuracy in this sense. What you really need to focus on is being able to read the data directionally so that you can make a decision and create something and test it and double down when it works. There's a great blog post by Andy at Orbit Media that I highly recommend you check out. Now we're going to hop into Google Search Console. Similar to the other tools, you're looking to get a sense of what decreased across clicks, impressions, and URLs. Search Console will notify you if your site has received a manual penalty because of something you did. The three questions to ask yourself inside of Search Console are: what has changed with the page performance? What areas of the site lost rankings? When? And have impressions also decreased? Here's a snapshot of the reports that you should look at inside of this tool. There's a ton of insights inside Search Console. The areas to spot check are average position within the search results, see if your site's crawl rate and indexing have been affected, because that's something you can take action on, and see if there are any sitemap issues detected. And there's a new feature called Core Web Vitals. So I want to briefly touch on this section because it was announced in late May as I was building this presentation. Google's making it easier for webmasters to understand Core Web Vitals across these 6 tools. And there's 2 important things to note here. The first is that Core Web Vitals will be incorporated into Google's ranking algorithm. We already know that page speed is a ranking factor. And secondly, according to Matt Southern's article in SEJ, Google will try to give at least 6 months notice before these signals take effect. So there's no action to take right now, but marketers should just be aware of this going into 2021. All right, now we're going to jump into internal teams. Your internal teams, your IT, your dev teams are the best place to start to identify what internal updates or changes were pushed live. I've provided a short checklist here. It's not completely comprehensive, but it's just going to cover over with your devs as just a baseline to make sure each of these things is still operating correctly. And you can see in the screenshot here a great reminder from Glenn Gabe that even a seemingly insignificant change can result in Googlebot not being able to access a portion of your site. So that will definitely impact your rankings. The big takeaway here is not to place any blame on anyone, but simply do your due diligence and spot check these areas that can just sometimes unknowingly be affecting your rankings. Market research tools. It's one of our last sections. I'll go through this section rather quickly because you're basically looking to get a sense of external factors that are currently impacting your site's rankings. This is Google Trends. It's a free tool by Google, and you can quickly see how search demand in the 2020 year, our election year, has gone from predictable to completely unpredictable. In any other year, a topic like the presidential election would dominate the searches. But with coronavirus, the pandemic is really stealing the spotlight here. If you were a site that focused on politics, using this tool, you would be able to see why your rankings had been eclipsed by a much larger interest in another topic. Trending hashtags on Twitter can offer context behind the shifts in search behavior. So it's really important to understand and recognize when external events are happening to your customers that affect their search and buying behaviors. Using macro and micro trends just helps you understand the context and the external factors that are impacting your rankings. This data in particular was comparing the top 100 fastest growing and declining categories between March 2019 and March of 2020. So, let's say you're an e-commerce brand, you're a retailer that caters to customers and, they're shopping in your stores, and all of a sudden people stop buying work attire, watches, and accessories. You can get a sense of why that's happening. Another useful tool is SparkToro. This is an audience intelligence tool. What I like best is the websites feature. And you can get a sense of, where your audience might be spending time. It's possible their rankings, for this other website is overshadowing your own site. If that's the case, this is a great tool for understanding, who you want to take steps to reach out to and collaborate with on content. So that you continue to stay visible and relevant to your audience, as well as this other competitor. You can have mutual benefit from that. This is Glimpse. It's a tool that will help you see around the corner, so to speak, for what consumers are interested in. So noting spikes in what is gaining interest and applying that to the content that you're publishing can really empower your content to be more relevant in search. This is Pinterest trends, and it's in beta testing, actually. This will give you insights on trending topics across Pinterest, like fashion, home, food, and drink categories. So with everyone sheltering in place, people are spending more time than usual on social media. And as marketers, we're incredibly aware of how enticing images are on social platforms. So this can lead to a user flipping over to Google to search for a trend that they saw on social media, which means popular content gets prioritized to the top of the SERP, and that would push down rankings for other content. On that note, eMarketer is a great resource for data and market research on trends and consumer insights, right? Where people are spending more time, which apps or channels are increasing due to use, through external events that are happening in the market. All right, hopefully by now you haven't ruffled too many feathers with your dev teams, but you've been able to diagnose why those rankings were dropping. Here are a couple ways to go about fixing things. A great way to look at the SEO levers that you have control over to improve your rankings are illustrated here in this chart. This is from Jessica Bowman's book, The SEO Playbook. Making improvements to areas on your site content, links, page crawling, rendering, information architecture, all of those things will directly help maintain your rankings. So quick note on user experience. This is becoming a lot more prevalent these days. We really have to be aware of the device preference that our audience is using. In most cases, it's a mobile phone, and let that guide the content that we provide and how best to present it so that the user can achieve what they want to achieve. Poor user experience can definitely affect rankings if the site is not mobile friendly. All right, and to wrap up here, here are some great resources to guide you in fixing content and user experience. It's a little nebulous, but I think these are at least really good places to start. The first link here is to the Quality Rater Guidelines. This is a document that Google publishes. It's about a 160-page document. and it has updates around the EAT guidelines. And this is especially important for marketers working in, what they call your money or your life industries, finance, medical information, sites that offer advice that can be considered misleading to users. If information is too transactional or salesy, it can be considered untrustworthy. So it's best to stay objective, provide the best and most accurate information, and let the user make their decision. Crawling Mondays is a webinar series published by Alida Solis. She touches on a range of topics from technical SEO to content, and she is just a fantastic resource. All right. I've outlined 4 quick proactive steps that you can take action on now to be prepared for the next ranking drop. I'll quickly kind of go through these here. The key is to segment your data. Segment it so that you can easily see where the ranking fluctuations are occurring, and also take advantage of the dashboard features that are offered in tools like your enterprise platforms, but also Google Analytics as well. You want to create visibility of those high search volume terms and the pages and circulate that insight to your other teams so they're aware of what the rankings are and when they're dropping. And I'll start to close out with my list, my go-to list of people, resources that I follow on Twitter. And there's a couple people in here that write blogs. I refer to their posts whenever they publish insights on SEO thought leadership in the industry. And so this is by no means an exhaustive list, but these are quality resources, and it's a really great place to start. These folks have been in the industry a while, and they really do their research when they put information together and publish it. And so lastly, I will leave you with 2 online communities that you can get involved with to expand your network and attend a virtual conference to level up your SEO knowledge. First one is the Bay Area Search. It is local, but they do online events. And the Digital Marketers Organization, free virtual conferences and networking. They also do a happy hour every Friday. So I encourage you to check those out. So get involved. Thank you so much. And please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thank you.